For this professional development day, we looked at the applications of Zoom and how they can be used in the recruiting process, specifically with virtual tours. The audience for this particular professional development day is the faculty and staff that work at Wisconsin Lutheran College. And the goal is not only to have them become proficient at different aspects of Zoom, but to then use that newfound skill set and turn it into virtual tours to help connect with students that maybe otherwise aren't reachable, especially for a smaller college. This particular demonstration or activity that I'm going to be going through will take place near the end of the professional development day. So faculty and staff will have time to have done breakout rooms before, had times to work with Zoom in different technological settings, whether it be on the computer, tablet, or whatever their personal preference may be in some of those pieces of technology. And then at the end of the day, we're going to convert all the skills, knowledge that we learned before into a practical use, not only that they can use in the classroom, but more importantly, use it for recruiting purposes in the virtual tool. So with that, we'll begin the demonstration activity then for this professional development day. When it comes to using Zoom as a recruiting tool to meet with students, the ability to see someone's face and be able to talk to them, connect with them on different levels makes the recruiting process a lot stronger, makes that bond a lot stronger. In the recruiting world, he who bonds usually wins. There's sometimes other factors that you can't control, but when you have a lot of good relationships with different people on campus, that is a really big key. So for this activity, what we're going to do is we're going to separate out different faculty and staff and trying to not pair up similar type faculty or staff, so not all people in science, all people in athletics, a mixture of everybody, just so that we can get different perspectives on the virtual side of things. So what we'll do is we'll have the faculty and staff kind of take over the screen, whether it's online, we will give them sharing screen permissions, or if they're in person, they will take over the computer. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sharing our screen, which is some of the skills and some of the highlights that we learned earlier in the session, and we're going to be bringing up a virtual tour. This virtual tour was pre-prepared by myself. And what we're going to be looking at then is how then different faculty and staff can use this virtual tour as a tool. So when someone in the faculty and staff then takes over, what they're going to do is they're going to have complete control of the tour and they're going to enter the virtual tour. What this is going to allow them to do is either, let's say they are in athletics or they are in some form of academia. For this purpose, we're going to pick a student that would like to play baseball and is interested in the health sciences, particularly sport and exercise science. So what we'll do is we'll create either breakout rooms or different things where the professor then for 5 or 10 minutes can talk about some of their different aspects. So they have to get familiar with how to use the different settings on Zoom, be comfortable with being able to use the mouse, talk at the same time, and some of those hard skills. So for our science majors, they're going to stay in a place called Generac Hall. And as you can see on the screen, there's a bunch of different types of labs for students to look into and see some different things. So since they're an expert in this field, we want them to see the sport and exercise science lab. And this is where being able to talk to the student and be able to describe what's going on and create a sense that they're actually physically standing in the room with you can be really cool. So you can see a lot of the different equipment that students use. Professors will have the goal of trying to explain all of this equipment and then talk with the student either about specific majors that they're interested in. It could be anything from physical therapy to occupational therapy to chiropractics. To be able to have those deeper level conversations that if you were to just look at the virtual tour on its own, you might not necessarily get to see. You only get to see the equipment then. The goal is to pair Zoom with this virtual tour so that different faculty members can talk about the different labs that they're interested in, and the students can connect and see how the program really is in that light. And from that, professors have to be able to move around and then be able to go to different labs. So different research labs if they're interested more so in the research side of things. Look at anatomy and physiology and be able to smoothly transition from one lab to the next. This is where some of these hard skills that you learned early on how Zoom works comes in handy, but also some soft skills that we kind of developed earlier when we were doing different breakout rooms of being able to integrate different parts of the tour in your vernacular. Then, um, what's going to be really important is faculty then are going to learn how to, now that they're in control of the meeting, switch the user permissions to a different faculty member. So this is where now a faculty member, let's say in the sciences, would unshare their screen, put the baseball coach then as the primary user, and then the baseball coach can take over from there. And now that the academics has been touched on, we can get them on the athletic side of things. So you'll see different parts of the athletic complex. It can be things such as the golf center. For baseball specifically, it's going to be the weight room and batting cages. So this is where you can start to see how these meetings kind of play into effect, is that the goal is for a student to come in, connect with an admissions person on the entire campus tour to see every building, and then to switch over to a professor who then can show different types of the science halls or academic buildings, talk about their academic program, and from there they can switch to an athletic coach, band director, choir director, so that every part of what the student wants to experience in their college experience can be touched upon in a 15 to 20 minute seminar or meeting. What we're trying to do with this particular activity in the professional development day is we're going to have different professors and staff rotate and take turns, kind of in a role play setting. So what they're going to do is, like I just did, pretended to be a baseball student interested in the sciences. They're going to all take turns. So one, that they can see how a professor in their field might ask certain questions, but also how different faculty and staff talk about the different parts of campus, because we're not expecting everyone to be an expert on everything. But it is good to have a lot of that baseline knowledge so that when you are going to talk with recruits, it all comes from the same mindset and the same place, and that you're following the same mission. And that's a really key tool when you're trying to recruit. Some of the other skills in Zoom then, if a professor then wants to then translate this into their own classroom use, is they'll get to see some of the options when it comes to breakout rooms and things like that. So if they're trying to do a bigger event where they're going to have 50 health science students on a Zoom call, they can break it up by different majors or by different grad school interests, and that can be a real application use in the recruiting process then. And then for classroom reasons, in this day and age, the more familiar you can get with different types of technology, the more versatile you can be in the classroom and reach different learners. Not all the time are you going to be able to meet with everyone in person in lecture anymore. So how do you then translate lecture to a virtual setting? Or how then do you translate a dual purpose class where you have both viewers online and viewers in person? How do you work with that? So getting familiar with this type of technology will help not only the professors in the short term in terms of their classes and meetings, but in the long term, it will help the college grow as we're able to connect with students that we would never have been able to connect with before. With that, then, that is one of the types of activities that will be done in the professional development day. So you can see how understanding the technology that we went over earlier with Zoom becomes more so important as you're starting to have a smooth transition into a virtual tour that doesn't look choppy, or that you're not fumbling over controls and things like that, and it makes it seem like you don't know what you're doing. But that is the end of the professional development day. After this session would be done in terms of the professional development day, it would open up to a question and answer where any last minute things that would need to be covered, any skills that would need to be polished, would get addressed at